Whenever I write an email, my computer does a favor for me. I push send, and a window pops up, and it says, "Would you like to spell this word this way, or would you like to spell it correctly?" And it gives me the chance to save myself from some embarrassment. If my computer really wanted to do me a favor, though, if it really wanted to do me a favor, what it would do, it would scan the content of the messages I sent, and a window would pop up. Do you really want to take this tone with the producers of Dancing with the Stars? No. Would you email your mother with that mouth? No. Content check. There are people who feel that perhaps Paul could have used content check on the letters he sent. A lot of things have been laid at his feet, and the modern church really struggles with what to do with our crazy Uncle Paul. So many of the words that he wrote are used today in a hurtful way to exclude and marginalize people from the church. And that naturally trickles over into society. And yet Paul wrote these words without the benefit of 2,000 years of evolution in our society, scientific, social, theological. I have to imagine that if Paul were to come back today and see how God is still working in this world, he would hit delete on a lot of what he wrote, knowing as he demonstrates that our God is a God who guarantees presence, not exclusion. Nevertheless, Paul's not everybody's favorite apostle. He had a bad reputation back then, you know. And this is part of the letter that was read to us today, the letter to the Corinthians. He had been accused of mishandling money, of being a person who couldn't be trusted, of not being a real apostle of Jesus. And the letter that he's writing to the church in Corinth today, or that we read today, was in part a defense of that. The church was being infiltrated by false teachers. And Paul was saying to them, the teachers are coming in, and you don't know who to follow. You don't know who to believe. You don't know whose guidance to take. But remember this one thing. It is not ourselves that we preach, but God, who at the beginning of time called into the void and called lightness out of the dark. And now the same God calls into the darkness of our hearts, and through Jesus Christ brings forth light. God is everywhere. This was a letter of defense, yes, but it was also a letter of great guidance for the people of the early church. A letter of direction. I used to resent it when my family and friends would tease me about having no sense of direction. And then I realized one day, I have no sense of direction. That's true. Nevertheless, last month I packed up my GPS and I traveled out east to a meditation retreat in Pennsylvania, in the Poconos. I picked up a rental car at the Wilkes-Barre Airport and then drove into the relative wilds of Hansdale, Pennsylvania, guided faithfully by the GPS that 8 days out of 7 is the sole voice of sanity in my car. Hansdale is a small town, and as you exit the gravel freeway into Hansdale, there's a sign that says, "Welcome to Hansdale, birthplace of the American Railroad," and apparently little else since then. It's a small town. If I were to speak more politely, I might say it's a quaint town. But I soon learned that the difference between quaint and terrifying is how much sunlight remains. And this cute town soon became terrifying as I drove up into the hills and the sun descended. I found myself unable to find the institute I was supposed to report to. And I was circling the hills, and it looked like something from a horror movie. And even my GPS at one point advised me, take a right. And I looked and I was on a bridge. That's a true story. It was dark. I was directionless. I was panicky. I was aimless. I thought, my God, my vacation has become a metaphor for my life.